Hello and welcome to the Spideydude Experience. I'm your host, Zach Joyner, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen and or watch. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our patrons at patreon.com/Spideydude Network. Patrons such as Vickman, Greg, Jurgen, Scott, Kale, Phoenician, Georgia, and Cindy. Thank you, guys, for your support. It means the world to us. And if you want to see what all the fuss is about, head on over to patreon.com/Spideydude Network for more information. The link is in the description below. Also in our description is our Discord page. Be sure to join our Discord and be sure to participate in all the great conversations that we have. You can always go there and hang out on our Discord page. It's a great time. Be sure to check out our other episodes of our other shows, such as Amazing Spider-Man Classics, which is hosted by Javi and Jack Trujillo, where they go through Spider-Man from the beginning, from the perspective of a longtime fan in Javi and a fan in Jack, who's grown up with Spider-Man but has never went back and read those original Stan and Steve Ditko original tales. Clone Saga Chronicles is, of course, our original flagship show. Just wrapped up its final episode, and it's a highly emotional one. If you have not listened to that one yet, I highly encourage you to do so. Spectacular Radio is another show, and Make My Mayday, and our newest shows, Voices from the Area Gargoyles podcast, hosted by Greg Mashansky and Jennifer Anderson. The Salvi Cinema Era podcast is hosted by Chris Denman. And coming soon, our Patreon first podcast, Books of X, an X-Men podcast hosted by Neil Bogenreiter. We want to let your voice be heard. We would love to hear from you. There are a couple different ways you can do so. If you prefer email, leave us an email at SpideyDudeRadioNetwork@gmail.com. Or if you want your voice to be heard on the show, leave us a voicemail at 818-925-6631. That's 818-925-6631. Be sure to tell us what show you're calling about and where you're calling from. We'll play it live on the respective shows. Leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. We'll do our best to read it on the show in a future episode. For those of you that are listening to the audio version of this particular program, please excuse references to the visual aids or our live comments, as these shows are live streamed on our YouTube page and twitch.tv as well as Facebook. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're over on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Spideydude Radio Network. Thank you guys for listening and enjoy the rest of the program. And with that, hello, I'm Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood webmaster of Spidey-Dude.com, executive producer of the aforementioned network of podcasts that I just mentioned. I want to take this opportunity to introduce the panel for tonight's episode. We got Everything Hurts, a.k.a. Neil Bogenreiter, the host of Books of X.
Hi.
He's also... Oh.
There I am.
There you go.
There we go.
And next up, we have Adam, the art apologist.
Hi. How's it going, everybody?
And finally, last but certainly not least, he is the host of the co-host of the MCU fan show and the Grand Poobah of the Comic Binge podcast YouTube page. He is P-Thug.
Wow.
Paul, are you okay?
Back.
He's back. Welcome back, buddy.
Back. Yeah, it's good to be back, man. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. My computer took a nosedive, and I'm just struggling here with my new my wife's computer, so I'm just trying to make it back. Man, AirPods are the most befunding. I don't know. I can't figure them out, man. I can get into work on my phone, no problem, but on a computer or something, it is hell. I don't get it.
Mac or a PC?
I'm a Mac guy, dude. Come on, bro.
They should work seamlessly.
You would think, but for whatever reason, whenever I work these stupid things, they never work. So I don't know. I can't tell this stuff anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
Paul,
anyway,
I used to be a Mac guy, so I can take a look at it if you need me to after.
I'll hit you up because we'll talk. But yeah, no, it's been great. I've missed coming on the show. It feels good. I know. Listen, Vickman, and those who don't know, I have a daughter, and I put that above everything. And I think anyone who has children understands that. But today, I really wanted to be on the show earlier and get on at a decent time. I will disappear for a minute when she has to go to bed, but I'll come right back.
Reject family, embrace Spidey.
All right, so we already got some live comments. We got Vigman saying hello there. He then says, Paul's here early. Has hell frozen over? We got Mr. Comics 89. He says hello. Comic Book Day. Hey, speaking of Mr. Comics, I am on his latest episode 7 of his podcast. Check it out on Spotify, and I will include the link in the description of this particular episode. Also, Matt Auger says, hello to the crew. Love the final episode of Clone Saga Chronicles. Just to let you know. Thank you, Matt. That was a very emotional time for me. It was certainly it was an experience, no pun intended, just because I never, it's the episode that I didn't ever think we would get to. And, I felt for a long time that we were never going to get to that point. And sure enough, we finally made it. So the exciting thing for me is that, we had a very clear mission, and we finished that mission, and it's really, really cool. Our first, and it kind of segues into my first news story. Radiax says, hi, fellows. Here to pay my respects to Peter's fighting spirit. So our first news story is Across the Spider-Verse merchandise is out, and if you are under a rock and you are starting to miss it, there was a little bit of a reveal in the merchandise.
There's a couple of reveals.
Hey, keep talking. I've got this is great. This is going to be great video stuff. Keep talking. So thanks for reminding me. So
we've got in the latest merch. Neil, do you want to share your screen and?
Hang on. Do you have a link?
Yeah, here we go.
Is it in private chat? Yeah.
All right, there it is. It's in the chat. So Neil's going to pull up the link. So for the audio listener, I'm going to read it. It says, in less than a year, this is from IGN.com, in less than a year, fans will flock towards the theaters once again to experience the thrill of comic book mania in the animated form with the release of the sequel to Sony's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Titled Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the upcoming animated flick will be the first of 2 planned sequels for the hit 2018 film, which garnered rave reviews from critics and fans alike.
It won an Oscar. That's how, even MCU films haven't done that. That's how kind of a big deal this is.
The sequel will continue the story of Spider-Man in multiple universes. Just whatever. Stupid.
Okay.
Wow. Sorry.
Okay. I'm the only person here who has a working setup. Okay. I'll take over for a second.
It's fine. The sequel will continue the story of Spider-Man multiple universes with characters like Miles Morales, Peter Parker, and Gwen Stacy taking center stage. The 2023 movie will also feature Miguel O'Hara, who was previously teased in the post-credit scene in the first film. Makers of the movie have confirmed that Across the Spider-Verse will expand upon the roster of Spider-Man characters from the 2018 film. So far, leaks have surfaced about the film, including iterations of a cyborg Spider-Woman and Spider-Punk. Along with that, a new leak, which includes some images from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse themed Trouble board game, confirms the addition of Spidey family character in Ben Reilly, a.k.a. the Scarlet Spider.
So real quick, Zach, I know you're probably going to bring it up, but in keeping with the animators creating a different art style for each universe, I noticed that Ben Reilly is drawn in the Tom Lyle art style of Scarlet Spider.
It looked like it was something between Tom Lyle and God, what's his name?
It's more Butler to me. Stephen Butler, right?
Yeah, it looked like something ripped straight out of Stephen Butler to me. So,
I thought it was Tom Lyle for sure, but
it could be both.
That image is straight up from
his first Web 119 or so, right?
Yeah. It's straight. Well, not 119. It's from a comic book. It's straight up, literally comic. So I'm pulling up.
So
but I wonder if that's only because they couldn't they don't have, he's not in the movie very much, or they didn't do a pose or not able to.
I don't know. He's up there with Miguel, and I think he's gonna play like a role similar to like Spider-Ham or what's Penny Parker's Spider or Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, no,
Where like he's
but
there, but he's mostly either comic relief or sort of someone to bounce off of.
yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I don't know how I feel about it. To be honest, it doesn't seem to me that he's going to be. I would not be shocked if he's not in the movie at all. To be quite honest, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Lyle Butler style art animated.
Me too.
That would be
For sure.
great.
Oh, dude. Listen, if he's in it for 5 minutes, I'm going to be happy. Okay.
This is the biggest W Ben Reilly fans have had since 1996. Let Zach have this.
Every time he brought back, it's been terrible.
It is 2016. Ben Reilly's brought back as a villain. It is 2020. Ben Reilly's brought back as a villain. It is 2022. Ben Reilly is brought back as a villain.
So yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
And they basically go through and talk about who Ben Reilly was. It'll be interesting to see if the world that houses Ben Reilly, as there's a great chance he might have taken up the baton of Spider-Man from Peter Parker. We can't wait for June 2nd to come sooner. So June 2nd, 2023, we'll find out for sure.
So real quick, Radiac says that it's a leak. Is it really a leak if this is out in the wild? Like it's not really a leak
really
so
sure
much as just accidental spoilers from the merchandise.
That happens all the time. How much stuff got leaked out via Legos? Okay.
And really quickly,
well, to be fair, the Mandarin's fire spewing Zamboni didn't make it into Iron Man 3, so
if you want to do a quick unboxing, I did pick up these.
Ooh.
Hang on, I'm putting Paul Solo. God damn it, Zach.
So I picked these up the other day, and much to my wife's chagrin, who doesn't know I picked them up. So I can do a quick unboxing of these if you want, really quick.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, I forgot to mention, I'm surprised no one's talking about the fact that Jake Johnson's confirmed to come back as, I think, Peter B, if not just a Spider-Man.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be back. What I anticipate is that Peter B, that either Ben is the Ben Reilly, if he shows up, this is my theory, he's either going to be from the same universe as Peter B, or he's from a universe where Peter and Mary Jane end up married, and he interacts with Peter B, and instead of Ben becoming Spider-Man, he just kept on being the Scarlet Spider. So would be Earth 1996.
I'm just mostly surprised because as far as I remember, or I've seen the film recently, so it's not like I remember it. But Jake Johnson's Peter's arc was fairly wrapped up and buttoned up by the time the movie ended. Like it was left kind of open-ended whether or not he and MJ like fully got back together. But it was, you can kind of take context clues and imply, yeah, they got their happy ever after. So I'm surprised. I'm not upset because I love Jake Johnson and I love his take on Peter, but I'm just kind of surprised that they're bringing him back when the focus is meant to be more on Miles and Gwen.
Well, I'll get that in a second. First of all, I just wanted to comment, if you can blow me up real quick, Neil. Yeah. This Spider-Man, I love these this iteration of Spider-Man from Into the Spider-Verse, and these figures are totally in that form.
Is that Chris Pine? Is that Chris Pine?
No, this is the Josh. I always forget the actor's name. The guy you're just talking about.
Peter
B. This guy. This is a great. Look how skinny he is. It's totally that version of Peter. Well, we thought. Well, minus the gut, of course. Right. But no. But like as you can see here, it's got the same build here. I love it. I love this version of Spider-Man. I've always loved the interpretations of the Into the Spider-Verse characters.
I know Hobby had some. Oh, sorry.
That's right. And here's 2099.
I love that texture.
Dude, this is fantastic. One of the things that I didn't think I was going to buy this figure at first, but then just I can't help it. I'm going to buy the bathtub version, like the 12-inch or whatever it is, the jumbo version. I'm really into those, and I just think it's great. These look great, man. I'm going to get all of them. They're I keep seeing they're starting to show up in other places. They're like, it's weird because Target has them for like $12. This is not a bad toy, I think, for $12 to be quite honest. What's interesting is you could buy the jumbo version of 2099 for $16.99 or buy this one for $11.99, which is weird. But
yeah, that is weird.
But anyway, maybe I'm looking at the wrong price point. Maybe it's a little bit more. But either way, it's still not a bad price. I'm like, man. And to be honest, I think this thing looks really cool jumbo size. So I know people like to hate on the jumbo figures, but I love them, man. I think they're great. And I don't know. I think Miles and Gwen look great too. I can't wait to get them as well. So A+. These are solid figures in my opinion. I'm not sure what you guys think. And they're 5 points of articulation, or maybe wait.
I know Javi had some contention with the Miles figure just because he wasn't sure if he wanted to pay $12.99 for so little articulation. I can't speak to that because I don't buy action figures, but
okay. Really well, okay. Maybe they're 5. Wait, actually, is it 5 points, or is it because look, the legs don't bend, but the arms do.
So that's 2 because you got your arm joint and then your elbow joint. So that's
so it's 6 point or wait, oh my gosh, my math is astounding me right now. Yeah, 6 points of articulation, right?
Yes,
right.
You got 2. You got 6. It's actually that'd be 7
because of the head, right?
Yeah.
So Mr. Comic brings up a point that I kind of want to touch base on, where he calls, can we call marketing on merch leaks? And the company,
I don't think so.
It was also supposed to come out like in a couple months, right?
No, I think it was supposed to come. Yeah, it was supposed to come out in year of this year.
Yeah, of this year. So it was kind of inevitable, I think.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm starting to fall in love with this Spider-Man figure a lot. I liked it.
It looks good.
I do like that Peter B figure.
It looks great.
I like simple figures like that, honestly.
Me too.
Give me stuff like that over. I mean, a lot of the Marvel Legends look really good, but
the legends are slowly becoming a collector's item. They're not meant to.
Oh,
well, they've been like what 20? They've been like $20. Now they're slowly going up to like 25.
I think
they've always been for adults.
They've been 25 for a while. I think they're going to 28 now.
Guys, I love.
Oh well, so it depends. If they're fan channel exclusives, I think they're the discussion was it going up to like 30, but they've been 20. It just depends. I think Walmart and Target right now are kind of keeping it where it's around 20, 24, 99. Now there is this was made by Sentinel, and I'll put this in the chat. This has got a Peter B. Parker. Now this thing is expensive, but it comes with this giant gargoyle. So I'll put all the links that everything we're talking about down in the description below.
Here we go.
So,
I got the Amazon. Jesus Christ, that's $239. Holy shit.
That looks good too, though.
This is ridiculous because it has like a. Yeah, it's got a. It actually has an alternate torso too. So you can be the fat version or not.
That's kind of rad.
It's got multiple heads, multiple hands. It's got that giant gargoyle base, so you're getting your money's worth. I mean, and then if you haven't got the Hasbro Legends figure, it's also still available up on Amazon right now.
So, can I ask you a dumb question? What's the difference between the main one and the special version? Does the special version come with the gargoyle head?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And then above that, if you scroll there, you got the Marvel Legends.
No offense to our homies like Javi, who love to spend money on the hot toys and the more expensive figures. I don't know. There's something about spending money on the really a lot of money on like one figure is really difficult for me. I don't know what it is, but it's just.
I'm not gonna lie. The Scarlet Spider that we talked about was the episode before last. That one with the soft goods. Like, to me, it's really difficult because I can sit there and get almost an entire wave for the price of that one figure. Now, will I do it? Probably, because I'm a masochist. But
you have a job. You're supposed to spend money.
I got to make sure I have a roof over my head first and internet. But, so that way I can continue doing the show.
If only it was that simple.
That's Amazon listing for the Peter B. Parker. So here's what I highly anticipate is going to happen. In November, they're probably going to announce the Across the Spider-Verse wave, and it will probably
be whichever 6 characters they decide to feature in the movie. Or
and I figure between now and the end of the year, they're going, because based on the leaks, and we haven't had any new fresh Spidey leaks in a while. Based on the leaks, Penny Parker and Spider, the robot, that's the last thing from the leak list that was put out that has not been released. Obviously, there was a few that Bagman was not on the leak list, but that had been rumored for a long time. So I think Bagman's actually starting to hit shelves, from what I've heard. And if you go to Target, the Renew Your Vows and the Iron Spider are out now. So if you didn't pre-order them, you can go pick them up at your local Target.
Why is he? Why is his? I know it's like plastic because it's plastic, but it looks like MTV 2003 Spidey in terms of texturing. Like, am I the only one who sees it?
That has been one of my biggest complaints about some of the details on
Into the Spider-Verse stuff.
Not just Into the Spider-Verse, but like in general with like especially the MCU figures with Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I think there was a lot of people that were excited about the Tom Holland Spidey, is that it was going to be painted web lines instead of the like textured web lines.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing the texturing, they don't paint those web lines, and so you got to go in and do it yourself, similar to what they did with Shocker. That I saw a lot of people.
Spider-Gwen and Miles are so much higher in terms of pricing.
It's weird because like.
Want to hear a real hot take? I think this should have been Miles' costume for the entire movie, or at least that entire third act. It gave him a more distinctive silhouette next to Peter.
Agree, disagree.
It's weird because there's certain ones in the wave that are more expensive. Obviously, Peter B. Parker is probably the least expensive of the group, but there's just a lot of. And see, here's the thing: I didn't pick those two up for the pretty much the biggest reason I didn't was because I already had the Spider-Gwen. So basically, I'd be getting basically getting her for a head swap, and the feet are different. I already have a Spider-Gwen. I don't need another one. I do get Stilt Man. I need to just break down and buy the whole Stilt Man.
Again, the texturing on the faces is really weird. It's one of those things where I don't think it translates well into an action figure. At least the facial design.
Yeah. I've been told it's better in hand than the action than the shots.
Than the still photos.
Yeah. Speaking of, there is something we kind of alluded to last episode when we talked about San Diego Comic-Con, but this is from the Fwoosh, the Marvel Legends Amazon. So we thought that Razorback and Fly were going to be part of a wave, because generally they announce a wave at San Diego Comic-Con. But with PulseCon coming up later on this year,
we were wrong.
It's a 5-pack, and they include
let's see, Silvermane, Human Fly, Ultimate Symbiote Spidey, Razorback, and Molten Man. I think is that Molten Man?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's the best of the '80s, basically, and the early 2000s.
I don't understand any of this.
There's no thematic connection between any of these.
Well,
so this
it's mostly 80s kind
it's
of.
It's all mid early 80s stuff.
Gotta say that Stegman. I think that Stegman cover art looks really good.
It's very good.
Or box art. If there was one positive to come out. Oh, sorry.
So yes, it's supposed to represent the 80s, but the body that they're using is the teenage Spider-Man body.
Yeah, from the old
that they have literally not used since 2018.
Interesting.
The Silvermane body is, we've joked, literally it's a slightly different head sculpt to the RC car that you got with Speed Demon, and he is straight up from Ultron, and that's what a lot of people were using to make Silvermane like custom. So then, like Hasbro was like, "All right, that's good enough for us. We'll slap that together." A lot of people were excited about Molten Man. I was a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a huge fan of the head. I think it's the head for me because it's kind of got that translucent texture to it. Is why I'm not.
Can't zoom in on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not a very, that's honestly probably the least impressive one of all of the 5 there. Everyone else looks pretty solid, to be honest. But
Razorback looks really good, all things considered.
Razorback look legit. And even I'm excited to have this symbiote Spidey just because like it's the one like ultimate costume that we don't have, that we haven't had. So I'm okay with it. Like it is $127, so it is pretty expensive. Due out January 1st.
So you want to hear a weird take of mine? Especially as someone who doesn't buy toys. If there's one good thing to come out of losing like the transparent packaging, is that we get kind of these sick ass cover images.
Oh, dude!
Artists. I think that's really cool.
Did I talk? We talked about the Amazing Friends 3-pack.
We
like
did.
Really,
I think so.
they used figures to recreate the pose from the cartoon, which was to me just a stroke of genius.
I'm looking for the other one because it involves slimy things. Symbiotes.
Oh yeah, so there's also the. Did we mention that last episode?
No, we did not, because it wasn't announced until after PulseCon, I think.
So the Rage and the final 2 pieces of the Separation Anxiety 5,
Agony and Riot.
Agony and Riot were announced, but then they announced that it's a 3-pack with a new Venom. Now, this Venom is the same body as the animated series repaint that they did. So it's not the same body that they did with the Null Venom 2-pack. It is different. So
here's the box art by Stegman. Once again, I'm really glad that the comic creators are getting in on this. Here's Agony, and here's Riot.
So Agony, Riot is based on the Monster Venom sculpt, but with a new head and some different little textures to him. Agony is the
Scream body, right?
No, it's actually the Shriek body. So the Shriek body now is this standard body. She's got double elbows and knees, unlike Scream. And then a new head, 2 new heads with him, a big tongue head, and then the half
tongue head,
the half tongue, half unmasked head. That actually is somewhat of a reference to the very first Venom in the 6-inch line from Toy Biz back in the day. It was, I think, the first wave of Spider-Man classics. And I'm going to find it so I can send it to Neil to kind of.
Excuse
Bro. Come on,
Mute,
man.
Neil, mute yourself, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay, so all right, so I got this old kid these days.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an old review, but there you go, Neil.
Let me pull it up. There we go. Oh my god.
They
definitely don't make them like they used to. They definitely don't make them like they used to.
Look at it. It looks like a horse.
Mm-hmm.
Is this venomized beta ray?
That's
okay. Scroll down. There's the side.
What is this?
That's like when McFarlane drew that cover later on for the trade. That he had like the huge.
This guy's just dead.
And that was cool.
Yeah, so that you can see Eddie's face. It's
Oh,
a
I have
weird.
that Iron
Shit, I
Man
closed
thing.
They had the guard from the vault as the base.
He's just
Yeah,
dead.
I have that figure, like the actual action figure that.
So that's kind of what the head is in reference to. Yeah, baby, show us some leg venom. That will bring Annie back. Rickman says, "Come on, is Neil burping really worse than Neil dropping f-bombs?" That's true.
Maybe.
Yeah, I haven't said one yet tonight.
Yes.
So Vinkman and Mr. Comics were making jokes about the Molten Man. Do you know the Molten Man? I know the Molten Man. Do you know the Molten Man? Sorry.
What the?
It's the Muffin Man.
Yeah, I know, but okay. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So from that, that's all the Marvel Legends news. There will be when is PulseCon? PulseCon I think is in September, and New York Comic Con's in October. So there's something coming out next week. Another announcement. They did announce, if you have not gotten the regular Ghost Rider, they did announce on a retro card fan channel exclusive Ghost Rider. So if you missed out on him the first couple of times, he is going to be available as a fan channel exclusive. So
Good times.
and I'm trying to get. Apparently, I have a connection to the founder of Entertainment Earth. So fingers crossed. I'll try to get hooked up with him and maybe do an interview. I also have got. It's going to probably not be until October. An interview with a new Spider-Man book that's going to be coming out this fall. So stay tuned for that, by the way. So, all right.
I thought you were talking about the slot one because I was thinking of adjectiveless.
No. Not adjectiveless, which did everybody see the trailer that I sent?
I did, but I've been at work all day, so.
Oh, wow. We got 10 people. Wow.
I did not see,
Nope, it went back to 8.
I did not see any trailer.
Okay, so
basically, it's just advertising the launch of adjectiveless.
advertisement for the Dan Slott, Mark Bagley book. Had some extra artwork that was revealed. Now, obviously, most of the artwork was the artwork that was revealed with the original press release. Obviously, it's a story that's going to have a specific character that JMS was well known for. This JMS Renaissance has kind of been a thing between Digger and
also the general tonal connection to like a really early JMS, at least the tonal connection to
see. Please don't ever speak in that voice again. But it's never mind.
I can do my Kremet voice if you like.
No. Let's move on. But that's the last news topic. Was basically me talking about that. Mark Bagley is going to be drawing it. Dan Slott will be writing it. It is simply adjectiveless Spider-Man. It's kind of based on the solicitations. If you've seen the solicitations, you kind of know who is returning, but it is confirmed in this one. Another revelation is that Gwen and Miles will show up as well as some other characters too. So
I mean, we kind of knew that going in just because they're the other two most pushed Spider characters. So.
Obviously, the Edge of the Spider-Verse miniseries is going on right now. It's kind of leading into that. That's when we're getting several new Spider people. So we'll see.
Our view count goes down the more we talk about Spider-Verse.
With that, we're going to jump. I figure it's been long enough. Normally, this is when we bring Paul in, but Paul's already here, so we're going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man number 901. Hello, Joey.
Oh, are we talking about ASM 7? You said
Yes.
You said 101.
I said not.
He said 901.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
Music numbering, and Neil's going to give us the rundown really quickly.
Okay. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 7, legacy number 901. Written by Zeb Wells, art by Ramita Jr., inks by Scott Hanna, and colors by Marcio Menez. Who here remembers Amazing Spider-Man 850? Show of hands. Okay, who remembers the backup where Peter got drugged and said that Vulture was a murderer to Starling and caused her to question her worldview? Okay, so after 2 years, I believe, that plotline is finally getting follow-up on. She apparently didn't use the internet before now, but now she has, and now she's mad that she found out that Grandpa Adrian is a murderer. Now she wants nothing to do with him. So Vulture is butthurt that his granddaughter finally learned how to use the internet and decides, you know what? Today's the day I kill Spider-Man. After a credits page, we cut to Midtown, where Peter is talking to Norman, and he's introduced to the new Oscorp. If you remember, Oscorp in 2013, I believe, was absorbed into the new Alchemax via Normie's shares that Liz took control of. So Norman's creating a new Oscorp focused on aerospace, and for whatever reason, Kamala Khan is interning here.
I didn't even know that was her.
It says Kamala Khan, but after a spill, Peter turns a corner and sees Mary Jane. Paul, why are you you're mouthing into the mic? I'm not sure if you're talking or not.
He's like, just let's get on with it. Let's get on. He's trying to rush you to the recap.
Basically, MJ is the ambassador for Dementia Be Gone, the X-Men's newest drugs, and wants to run them through Norman of all people to make sure they're safe. Peter, I guess, reunites with MJ's new boyfriend Paul, including a very detailed flashback of when Paul kicked the shit out of him. And she leaves, and then Peter has a freak out and tells Norman to piss off because he thinks he brought them to taunt Peter. But Norman says, no, I actually wanted to hire you, and I want you to be Spider-Man for me. And he reveals a new tech suit. Elsewhere, Vulture is spying on the rooftop, and he finds Spider-Man, and Vulture attacks him and goes for the kill as he tears apart Peter's web shooters and then drops him from several hundred feet up. Do we want to just do issue 8 because it picks up right where we left off?
Yeah.
Right where we
do 8.
All right, issue 8. Same creative team: Wells, Romita Jr., Hanna, and Menez. So Peter decides to think smart and uses the spare web cartridges in his utility belt to slow his fall and stop him from dying. Vulture keeps going anyways, and Peter gets the absolute shit kicked out of him some more. And Peter calls Norman, says, I'm going to die. I kneel, Norman-sama. Please help me. And Norman refuses. Peter decides to make his way over there anyways, and eventually grabs onto Vulture to use as essentially a fast travel mechanism for the PS5 game to get himself to Oscorp faster. Vulture is confused. He's like, where the hell did you go, you son of a bitch? And Peter, dressed in the all-new, all-different Supa with pumpkin bombs and a glider, smashes out and turns the tide. He uses a pumpkin bomb filled with spiders. Now Vulture has become covered in spiders, man. And Peter's drone uses, I guess, aerospace telemetry data to, I guess, crash Vulture into a chimney, complete with today's VIP, the emoji mask. We'll talk about that later. Peter gives Vulture kind of a middle finger, saying, well, you didn't kill me, but can you settle for the fact that you almost got me and I'm going to be sore for a month? And Vulture's like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. Peter goes to Norman, who reveals that he didn't come to save Peter because he's worried that he's addicted, not addicted, but that if he gets back on the glider, he will never get off, which is why we have a Golden Goblin series solicited for 2 months from now. Peter, he says that he doesn't want to risk his new life, and Peter says, you know what, I can't believe you, and he accepts Norman's job offer to work at Oscorp. Next time, Spider and Manlet versus Moira Jane. To be continued.
Green versus Moira Jane. Okay, all right. And Neil will have to give us a detailed explanation. We won't have any news because it's going to take 30 minutes for Neil to explain what the is going on
in Hellfire. Yeah, you have to read the Hellfire Gala as.
Yeah.
Okay. The one shot's great. I'm a little concerned about how this one's going to go though.
I mean, listen. I mean, it could be worse. It could be this. But I mean, honestly, whenever he does do Books of X, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, I'm getting together my crew. I'm getting together some really good analysis.
So, all right, P Thug, tell us your thoughts. What is your grade for these two issues?
You're muted.
You were muted, Kimosabe.
Oh, you know what? I didn't realize it was. I had two things muted, but I apologize.
I'm glad that you couldn't hear me. I'm glad that you didn't shout "move along" while I was recapping because I got the visual.
I was trying to, so I was stopped by fate.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We were criticized on the MCU fan show for loving everything Marvel and being an apologist. And
right.
I try, and the thing is, I try to be. And I just want to say this for right now. If it's just an okay story, I'm gonna like it, and it's gonna be probably a B- C+. I want people to know this. It has to, for me to dislike something, it has to be pretty bad, and I'm just gonna admit it. Like I've accepted. I wouldn't say I accepted mediocre writing, but I've accepted that things aren't going to be perfect, right?
Sure.
So when I do these reviews, I want people to think do you even criticize things for Spider-Man comics? Yes, I do. And Zach and everyone's here has known that I've criticized the end of Nick Spencer's run is atrocious. It's brutal. So I have criticized Spider-Man before, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, I just feel like I'm a broken record a lot of times too, but I can't help it. I'm just me. I'm really enjoying these comics. I think they've been really, really solid. And I think these two issues, 7 and 8, have been no exception in my opinion. And I think that what I love about these comics, and I'm going to give them right now, both together, I'm going to give them a good solid B+. And when I say B+, this is why. John Romita Jr.'s art, in my opinion, is just it's back. I'm not sure if it's just because Spider-Man rejuvenates him as his career.
It's like sucking the soul out of a character to rejuvenate his art.
I don't know, man, but there's something about we on the council, Spider-Man Council we did, which Neil, we're gonna get you on soon, man. Don't worry, I gotta get you on. Okay. But it's weird because when we did the JMS run and we did that whole reread a little bit from the very beginning, it was amazing to me that how good that art was and how it felt like it reinvigorated him then. And going back to here, I'm like, okay, it's pretty good. It starts off pretty well. I think the art's been pretty good, but it's gotten better every issue. And I think these two issues, I'm like, God damn, am I alone? I'm reading these. I'm like, the storytelling in this is phenomenal. I love it. It feels like a throwback to the basic paneling. You have the 6 panels that, where it's just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's just just so good. It's just so good. I love it. I don't know. I think this is great. I don't know. I've been really enjoying the series. And I think what I love about this is it feels condensed enough to where I'm not getting hit over the head with a annoying theme, which there is the Mary Jane stuff, which has not been great. I don't like the X-Men tie-in. I just don't care. I'm like, whatever. I'm just moving on from it. But that being said, I think Zeb Wells has been doing a good job of narrowing his stories down enough to where it's not building towards something like a Kindred. It's got the overarching story but it's building off the Sin Eater storyline. And I like that. I like the fact that the whole thing with that Nick Spencer did with Norman Osborn has not been just he was a good guy, now he's a bad guy again. No, they're really building off that, and I think they're building off the fact that Peter is always trying to find that redemption, and that it's building off the idea that Peter gives people a second chance, and I believe that. That's just me, and I like the one criticism I'm going to say about this is that I don't know if I love the costume with the glowy eyes and the spider. Like that just feels like
a different color. If they made a different color,
yeah, it just that has been. I will say that I think that was a misstep. They could have done a better job of adding a different costume or a different part of the costume. Now that being said, I like the glider. I like that new stuff they're throwing into it.
I like the shot of it like the drone POV, or like it looks like an actual U.S. military drone.
Yeah,
I thought that was a neat touch. There's to say about it, but I'll let you.
Yeah. I'll wrap up here in a second too. But I just think that this has been a pretty I think the art, the inking, the lettering, I think the scripts. I think the biggest thing for me and this is maybe a criticism a little bit, is it's a good pace. And I blow through it pretty fast. Now, this modern comics in general, I've been reading a lot of older comics, and there's a lot of narration, head narration to get people caught up what's going on. And I think they kind of missed that. I think that needs to come back a little bit, maybe give us a little more insight of Peter's heads and the heads of the characters. It's not a bad thing. That being said, I think that I'm really impressed with the pacing. I think Zeb's nailing it, and I think that I've really enjoyed every issue for the most part, and I'm really thankful that he's on the book. And I think Spider-Man's been pretty good since Spencer's been off. I mean, and again, I love Spencer, but since the ending of his run, it's been pretty consistent for me for the most part. And I've been really liking the different kinds of stories. I know everyone loves the Ben Reilly stuff. I do, but yeah. I think this is more great stuff. I will add the last thing is the Vulture. I love the Vulture. I love the fact that his granddaughter means so much to him, and she's like, "You killed people. Like you're kind of a bad guy." Like she kind of calls him out, and that just sets him off. I love that. It was great. So, and it pays off to what I think was going on in Miles' book too, with that introduction to the character. I like that character they introduced. I'm not sure what she's done recently, but. Yeah, I think she's a cool character.
She's been relegated to champion's duty, which means she'll never show up in a solo book.
Champion. Anyway, yeah, I love where we're getting, but I think mainly it's the pacing and the art has been really, really well done. And
I want to touch base on the pacing because you brought it up, and now I want to expand upon it.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm going to bring up a criticism of it too. So,
yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll go next. Actually, Adam, you want to go first because you're pretty brisk with.
Give it. Great, buddy.
I'd probably give these two both a B. I really do love the art. I mean, the art is great. I don't care. Like everyone can be like, oh, his Romita Jr.'s wonky faces or whatever. Like, his faces are wonky.
It's not the same highs he had back in like 05.
Yeah, like I prefer how he did faces back in the JMS run, but I think he's drawing a great Spider-Man and a great Vulture in this, honestly.
Vulture looks incredible, dude.
Yeah, like the battles between them are great. Like it's good comic book action.
Donna looks really weird, and I can't tell if it's just the angles he draws her at, or if it's just there's something about the way he draws Starling that makes it's really off, and I can't put my finger on it.
Yes. I think this is the best that Vulture has looked stylistically since Funeral Arrangements.
That's a great page, Paul.
The spreads of Vulture are the best parts. There's one panel that really stood out to me. It's the panel just before Vulture attacks Peter. The panel where it's just red lines on the white body. That was a really cool page that visualized the spider's sense. I wish we got more stylistically unique panels like that.
Yeah, I do see because that's what the medium is all about, doing wonky, weird, crazy shit like that.
Yeah,
Preach.
What else I want to say? The thing is, I think I like the pacing. It's very fast paced, but it's not. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, wait, what did I write about this?
Adam, really quick to go with your pacing, I just want to mention here this page, and if you go to these next couple of pages here, sorry guys, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's all action.
Right.
It's not a bad thing, but look at this. This is hardly any.
I do think you could have cut about half that page of like zooming in on Peter. I think it's really cool. I just think as far
like,
as
I think issue 7 suffers from pacing problems a bit more than 8 does. Like at that back half, like I think the art is fantastic in the back half of 7.
you can tell that Wells was struggling with something to put there.
Yeah, it felt. I mean, and like I said, the art's great. It looks good, but it moves so fast that 7, like we get all this stuff with the mystery, which I'm not a fan of that stuff. The Paul and Mary Jane thing is weird, and it's still a drag on the book for me.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
but you get to the back half of 7, and the art looks great, but then like there's not a lot of there's meat in the artwork, but not necessarily in the writing, kind of, and it feels like we're lighter on plot there because it's basically just Vulture attacks Peter for several pages, which is great. And then we get the cliffhanger. How's he going to get out of this one? But it feels kind of a little empty a bit. And then you get to 8, and it follows through with that. And it's a bit better because it's fast paced, it's action packed, it moves along, and we get him in the suit and all that, and the plot it works better for that. But for the end of 7, it's a little light, a little empty, I thought.
Well, in the follow-up with you said too, Adam, is that the thing about what I think the problem is with 7 is that back, like the front half is meat, like as far as plot goes, right?
Yeah.
You're doing lots of setup. You're doing a lot of setup between Peter and Norman
along at a pretty solid pace.
Yeah, but the problem, because when I read, I'm looking at 8 now, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, these comics, no matter what, how much, unless you want to put in like tons of, like, unless you're trying to read From Hell or some shit like that. I mean, like, you're gonna be here. I mean, From Hell takes me like a half hour to read like 8 pages. It's crazy. So much going on. Yeah. But whatever. I won't love that either necessarily. The thing is about this, I love that, like, he's putting in creative, like, again, there's still captions to read. There's still lots of visual things to do with the captions they're doing. That's really fun and interesting. That's missing in the sound effects. That's missing in 7. And I think that there was a little bit lost between the fight between Peter and the Vulture. You could have had some more dialogue between them.
That scene with Kamala, it's so like void of things happening. Like obviously Kamala is like doing the oddly passive aggressive nerd bit where she's fangirling / dunking on.
This is the thing, is like I just thought this was a random girl, and for some reason I thought she just said I forgot that she said Kamala Khan, but when I read that she says Kamala Khan, I'm like, wait, why is she saying Kamala Khan, weirdly like that? That's why I was like, who is this character? I didn't realize
that cameo was so out of place.
I know, it's weird.
Someone who really likes Kamala. Just that cameo felt out of place. But for
one thing real quick that I want to say is, like, I don't mind sound effects, but I feel like it was almost a bit overkill with the snapping branches.
Oh, what? I love that.
I don't know. I just felt like you could have taken away a lot of those, and maybe I don't know. It just because it covers the art is the thing.
But these just cover up trees though. This is where I disagree because this is where I think you're going creative with it, and I think this is where I think
I just feel like I don't know if you need to have all those snaps though. I don't know if you need to have all of those.
30% show what Peter is falling through.
Still would have gotten the desired effect.
So real quick, I'm going to give my grade so that I can enter the conversation without feeling like I'm butting in. I'm going to give him a solid B. Just across the arc. I want to talk about the pacing real quick because that was something I touched on. This arc felt much easier to sit through than the first one, and I think part of it was the pacing. Those first 2 issues where we're constantly being reminded that Peter did something wrong, where we're constantly reminded of this mystery box, and now we know what the ultimate living brain is. We're finally free of that luggage. But we're not constantly being reminded that Peter messed up. We're Peter's more or less back to where he started, except for the MJ stuff, which, like Paul said, that's really dragging the book down. That's the major plot thread that I'm still not on board with.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I feel like the Tombstone arc, if you took those last 3 issues, you'd have had a really good Spider-Man story. But it's those first 2 issues that drag down the overall experience. This one being 2 issues was a much easier thing to buy. I don't think it's perfect still. I actually think the Norman stuff is some of the best stuff we've gotten from him in a while. Like the stuff regarding Norman's sins and like the Queen Goblin stuff, that's the stuff I'm most interested in going forward. I don't care anything at all about what MJ's doing or who Paul is or their kids who are simultaneously too old yet too small to be like realistic people. I guess it's because JR can't draw kids. But I don't care about any of that. I'm more interested in like what Peter's going to be doing for a living now. Honestly, the X-Men stuff, I'm looking. I know Paul's giving me that stink eye. I'm looking forward to that more than I am the stuff that's tied to it, like the dark web stuff, because I know that's going to be tied to the mystery box somehow. Once we moved away from the MJ and Paul stuff in that issue, the book was fairly solid outside of that.
That's only a couple pages though that to me it doesn't really drag it down to me. I mean, for you it might be, but that stuff doesn't bother me. It's like, okay, I just get through it really quick and I'm good.
It's more just a reminder of a plot thread I'm not a huge fan of, and like it's there, and I get why it's there, and I do like Norman's shit-eating grin when he closes the door behind him. But to me, it just was like, oh, remember this thing that you don't like? Here, have some more of it. And then like in the letters page for today's issue, have you ever seen Smiling Friends? It's like, what's going on? I don't understand. We spent $250 million to break up Peter and MJ again. That's what it felt like to me.
I'm just marveling at this art, man. Like I think
the
issue
art,
7.
The art is like
good.
The art is A tier, like
dude.
S tier.
The art, the art in 8 specifically is just like my jaw. I'm just like, damn.
I love his shadow work with Norman. Like how Norman's like half in the shadows. I love the way he draws. Like, I think it also helps that Menez isn't doing that weird blush anymore, because that was a weird thing in issue 7 that I caught, was like every character had like this weird blush on their face.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
That looks fantastic.
He said that was on his social media accounts. He was like, "I'm finishing up the hardest page of the issue here," and it was that one.
Really solid page outside of the glow. I'm kind of digging the suit. It's not.
I mean, the pencils look really good for that.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about the glider yet. I think there's some cool things you can do with it. I'm mostly just a little concerned they're going to be like gimmicks. Like, oh, look, Peter has a glider. Oh, look, Peter has this emoji mask. Side note, I hate that emoji mask with such a passion. You cannot believe how much I despise that emoji mask. That is such a how do you do, fellow kids addition to the suit that I wanted to shank my eyeballs.
Wow.
It's one of those things where it's like,
did you really have to add that?
Yeah, like it does. I mean, the helmet's fine for the most part because it's basically just the Spider-Man mask.
But like, did it need to have like an emoji? Like, one of the things that's so cool about Peter's mask is how it can visualize his emotions and what he's feeling. I don't need this stupid like iPhone looking faceplate that tells that.
But there is something interesting that I didn't notice. Funny, I didn't realize it was a helmet. I thought it was just a mask that did that. I didn't realize it was going to be an actual helmet.
I kind of saw it when if you looked at the concept. I don't know if you look at the concept art, Paul, but Pat Gleason on his Twitter released like a sketch page of like all the concepts, and it did show Peter's face behind the faceplate. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew going in it was a helmet. I was just a little I'm kind of glad that JR didn't draw it as like the mask, because the the spandex mask has contours in it, so
Yeah.
that you can see his face. But I'm surprised he was very consistent on the on the helmet being very curved and very lacking in the facial features aside from the eyes.
No, I'm with you. I like that. I like the fact that it's a little different, and I've kind of realized that. And it always looked a little different, but now it's not a verbatim like complete 180. I'll be honest. I kind of miss the old the Daily Bugle or the what? Oh my gosh, what are Nora? What's her name?
Threats and Menaces.
That's a Silk thread. That's a Silk plot line now.
Man, I miss that. I miss that costume. I like that costume.
The Tron suit.
Yeah, bring that back, man.
My main concern is that well, not my main concern, but one of the ones that kind of got me was this is the second time this year we've had this plot, or not the second time this year, but like the second time in 2 years that we've had Peter equipped a high-tech suit from someone he knows, that will obviously come back to bite him in the ass later.
Yeah, but the one, at least with this, both of them I don't mind it because Peter's struggling financially, so it makes sense that he can't like just make a new suit. I do long for Spider-Man at one point to have a new costume that's like the black costume, not like verbatim like the black costume, but something like that where
something that stands the test of time as well as the black.
Yeah, because I think that there's. I've said this before that I think that superheroes are no different than us. That they have a different wardrobe. Like it's not like they want to just wear the same thing over and over again. Like they want to spice things up every once in a while. I feel like Spider-Man.
We're going to talk about X-Men for a minute here. One of the things that I'm a little sad that they never followed up on was Hickman saying like the X-Men or the mutants will never wear the same costume. They'll always like alternate between like I guess Cyclops doing like his Morrison costume or Storm doing her like Inhuman War stuff, but they never touched on that. The only artists that were Brett Booth and Valerio Schiti.
And here's the thing, like I do like the fact they're trying to tweak things up a little bit. I love me some costumes, and I'm all about tweaking things up. And I would love for Spider-Man to eventually to have a Gleason or a John Romita Jr. or someone like that to really take the costume and just don't just give it to Alex Ross. I love Alex Ross. I think he's a good designer and a good artist, obviously.
And I'll know a different costume was.
But give me a Spider-Man costume that's gonna be you think it's gonna connect with fans, and it's not gonna. Everyone's gonna hate it at first. Obviously, that's gonna happen no matter how good it is. Eventually, people are gonna be like, "I don't like it," and they see it in context, they see it in in whatever, and actually people will warm up to it. But I'd like to see them try to do something fun and have a different costume and really give it some like different feel. And I like the stuff when we get different things like that, but I'd like to eventually get to a point where we can get a different, like try to get a different costume in here. Like I think Nick Spencer legitimately tried to. I think I'm assuming if it wasn't for his run being cut off, that costume would have lasted longer.
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna push back a little on that because to me, the Twitch streamer Spider-Man suit, that's what I'm going to call it now, the Twitch streamer Spider-Man suit, to me was sort of a commentary on, well, not necessarily a commentary, but obviously came with strings attached. Like we saw that coming a mile away from like issue 39. Right. And we knew that like it wasn't going to, we had a sort of understanding that it wasn't going to last just because of the way Nick Spencer or whoever wrote the issue that wasn't him, it's probably Ed Brisson or Christos Gage. It was meant to be like something that was supposed to come up for an arc and Peter would learn his lesson and then it would go away.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's that. But
I think that Peter. Also one of the problems I have is that I still don't know what Peter is doing for Norman. I guess it's just being Spider-Man.
The one thing that it's kind of it's a light criticism.
Zach, you are muted.
I think it's going to be he's going to work for Oscorp as a member of the staff and like part of the R&D department, but also like
be their Spider-Man.
Norman's going to help him be a better Spider-Man. So I think that it's both. To get to my thoughts, because I haven't given my thoughts yet. My grade on this is an A-. But Two issues I have with it.
Really?
Well,
You're the highest grade. That honor goes to Paul. Do tell, my friend.
my slight gripe about both of these issues, and this is a deep cut and a deep reference, but I just recently did the final episode of Clone Saga Chronicles, but we used to have this joke about how Howard Mackey would get to like page 19 of 22 and have to come up with a real sudden ending to wrap the issue up, and it gets wrapped up in like a page and a half. I felt that way with both of these issues.
I think I'm gonna disagree with you. I think that
I just think that these did feel decompressed, but they read much better together than they do separately.
yeah, I was surprised by how well the book flowed when this was like we talked about that pacing issue on issue 7. I feel like it flows a lot better if you read as act 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, really, you could have. I felt like in the past you could have maybe made this story into a single issue. But them extending it out to 2 issues, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good, solid arc. I really like Vulture's characterization here. I like that Vulture is treated as a serious threat and he's a force of nature.
The villains have been the best part of Wells' run. Here's a weird take. If like Jed McKay had taken over ASM, I would have unironically killed to see like a Deadly Foes of Spider-Man book from Wells because the villains have been the highlight of his run.
It's one of those things, Neil. You might and you might remember this. I wrote an editorial whenever Omit was starting to come out, way back in the day, and I had said that the JMS era can be distilled down into one particular element, and it was the rebuilding of Peter Parker's character. And by shrinking the supporting cast to basically MJ and May, the intention was to rebuild Spider-Man's character after the disastrous reboot with Mackie and
yeah, and you see that because the rest of the supporting cast, like Daily Bugle, was shunted over into Friendly Neighborhood.
And much later, though.
Yeah.
I mean, from the beginning, like whenever it was just JMS, Jenkins had his supporting cast, like his mainly like Randy and like his roommates,
Randy and Flash and Liz, like they made more frequent appearances, but JMS was the core book, and so his core cast was the 2 people closest to him.
Yes.
And therefore shunting, you can justify, because there were 4 ongoing Spider-Man books by the time JMS's run ended. Right. You can justify shunting off chunks of his supporting cast into X book and Y book. So that supporting that main cast of MJ and May feels more important because it's in the main book.
Yeah. And so when we get to like Brand New Day, the pendulum swings, and now we got to rebuild the supporting cast and kind of put Peter Parker in the background. And I feel like that we're getting to a point now where we're trying to rebuild out again somewhat. And Spencer was able to balance that tightrope between Peter and his supporting cast and built it out all together. But now we're kind of getting somewhat of okay, we've put Peter in this mystery box. Now we're getting little things. Honestly, I think the event and Dark Web, I'm hoping will shine some light on the 6-month time skip. I'm hoping, but I'm really hoping after Dark Web we start getting some actual firm answers as to what's going on. The MJ scene is very strange because it wasn't just 6 months ago or a year ago, literally as of when we were recording these episodes, that MJ wanted nothing to do with Norman. So there's clearly something that's going on.
That was weird. That even in like Spencer's run, she was really apprehensive about working with Norman, and now all of a sudden she's like going to Norman and saying, "Hey, can you test dementia be gone? I need to
something ain't right.
Go hang with the X-Men."
It's not. We don't know exactly. I don't think she's Moira Jane yet.
Not yet. That happens in the Hellfire Gala one shot. We will talk about that
all of that was supposed to come out at the same time, but because of the printing delays and everything,
they had to push They had to go full steam ahead with Judgment Day, which is the current blockbuster event. So
Right.
ASM got held back, and Hellfire Gala went on ahead, and now ASM is having to play catch up. So I think if this had come out at the same time as Hellfire Gala, we wouldn't be having this problem of trying to figure out where everything is in the timeline.
Mhm.
But
so hopefully they'll definitely kind of make that clear to everybody. I mean, we're getting Gleason back next issue, so I'm excited to see how that plays out.
I love how he draws Logan as like a greasy, like broad-shouldered man, like he's canonically supposed to be.
Yeah, look, I'm down for a Wolverine Spidey team up. Like, all right, let's see how this goes. Again, I am I know like Sofalo in our chat right now, he is not happy about Peter taking this deal with Norman because it's like a deal with the devil, metaphorically speaking.
Part of
enjoy little bits and pieces of Norman, especially in today's issue 902, where he smashes the phone and he's fighting his own urges
to get on that glider and go help Peter.
It becomes the question of now we've peeled the onion back. Is it a chicken or the egg? Was Norman evil before the accident, which has been argued by certain goblin scholars, J.R. Fettinger, or is it he's a misunderstood soul that was manipulated into villainy because of his duality of nature?
Unfortunately, one of the problems with the last third of Spencer's run was that they took away all the agency and made it into Mephisto did it.
I don't like the fact that we had to bring that element to Norman. I think it was a mistake. That probably the second biggest mistake of that at the end of that run.
It's one of those things, I think, where you can just ignore it and you don't really, miss much.
You can argue that Mephisto didn't make Norman do anything. It was of his own volition, but Mephisto set the dominoes up for Norman.
The thing is I don't think anyone's really going to bring that up again. I mean, they may never say never necessarily, but that's one of those things that I think people are just going to let lie. And,
I honestly think that and the interview is going to be up here on the channel probably Saturday or Sunday that I did with Chris of Spectacular, the Sal Buscema era podcast. The where we were talking with one of the artists that I can't remember his name.
Marcelo Ferreira. You're talking about that recently, right?
Which issue?
Ferreira, he did the artwork for Morbius. He also did some of the artwork during like
Spencer's last
run. And during that episode, I asked him specifically if he dealt with Spencer a lot, and he basically said no. I mean, he was pretty much exclusively dealing with Nick Lowe. So, and between that and what we heard from CB Cebulski when it was brought up about how Nick Spencer's run ended weirdly, the context is that there was some extenuating circumstances. We've talked about that pretty, on and off during the show. So I think that maybe that part of it could have been added later. Again, I am all down for a character examination, long-term character examination of Norman. And it's going to be interesting to see in this scenario a Norman Osborn that doesn't hate Spider-Man. And
I really like. I'm sorry to take off, but I really like the way Wells writes Norman. I think it's interesting because one of the things I didn't like about Sensitive Norman in Spencer's run was that he was too nice. This Norman feels like an addict who's struggling to keep himself on the right path.
Right.
Like Storm and Norman in Spencer's run was like way too remorseful and like, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, Harry. I'm sorry. Whereas
I think that was also the manipulation of what Harry was doing to
And
Norman. I think
what-
that
and
was,
like the shock of like getting all of your evil removed from you.
and the realization that he was, because the thing about Norman prior to that is that Norman always was the hero of his own story. Norman genuinely thought no matter what he was doing that he was in the right no matter what. Even when he was behind the mask and the goblin, that the ends were justifying the means and he was always right.
You saw that in Dark Reign. I think that's one of the Bendis Norman is unironically one of the best post Millar Normans we've gotten.
Well, I mean, between him and Warren Ellis, I think that both those guys were able to sit there and get into that psychology and the psychosis of Norman. Norman is a magnificent bastard, as I've called him many a times on other shows. And when Norman is at his best, is that he is right in his mind. And especially when you go back and read the stuff between the Clone Saga and the reboot, Norman is 3 steps ahead all the time. And I'm interested to see, this kind of shows, okay, what if Norman and Peter had a relationship where Norman, what if Norman never had kept the amnesia? You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like, what if Norman was being kind to Peter? You know what I mean? When you're talking about 60 years of publishing history, it's very similar to the Lex Luthor. What if Lex Luthor goes good, right?
And that was what made me, because this kind of ties in, I promise. But remember in Rebirth when he became like Tech Superman?
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the most interesting things they've done with Lex since they made him president.
Agreed.
And then, unfortunately, Snyder's Justice League run had him as a main villain. So was it Tomasi and Gleason had to go back on that and make him evil again, or at least like supervillain again. When him being like an anti-hero was one of the most interesting things they've ever done with him. And we know that Norman's eventually going to go back to being evil again simply because status quo. And we know that he's getting back on the glider for the Golden Goblin miniseries by Cantwell and Philip. I think it's Philip Ty or Tyron Clark.
Look, and I'm down for seeing Cantwell explore that space. Like,
I think I've also mentioned like the economic aspect of the Goblin, but I think for what Wells is doing for Norman in this specific arc of him like struggling to keep himself in line, but also like not wanting to risk it, so to the point where he's willing to let Peter die so that he can keep himself in check. That's probably one of the more interesting things we've seen come out of Wells' run so far.
Agreed. And I think that, first of all, I think it's been phenomenal what Romita Jr. has done. And I felt like a Romita Jr. or a Bagley could sit there and really crank out issues after issue. Ed McGuinness was great in 900. He was the best part of 900, in my opinion.
The inkers being that's not McGuinness' fault. But like the inconsistencies between them, you could tell who was inking what. Right. It was a very odd experience.
But pencils wise, but I'll say this: Romita can draw fights. I think all the fight scenes that we've seen thus far with Romita have been phenomenal. I'm not terribly looking forward to the X-Men crossover. No offense to Neil, but
to be honest, I'm not looking forward to it, and that's from someone who's really enjoying the main X-Men book.
I am so ambivalent towards, we're bringing back Gwen, and I'm like,
to be fair, now that we have the added context of what is happening, they're not actually okay. So I don't disagree that there are stronger characters for that thematic Judgment. That have you been reading Judgment Day?
I haven't read it a single bit. I will.
I recommend it. It's really good so far. But basically, the Avengers celestial house that they've been living in, they bring it back to life to save Krakoa from Druig being a dick. And the celestial comes to life and says, "Okay, guys, fuck off, Ultra Beast. I did it. I dropped the bomb.
Damn it.
You go away. I'm gonna judge Earth. Y'all have 24 hours, and I'm dumping y'all in the garbage." And I'm guessing Peter, with today's issue where Cap was like held in like a force field and listed off why his dream of America was not bad, but like, you know, he was judged for being too idealistic. I feel like that's gonna be like Peter's gonna have like an internal vision of like Gwen judging him, or Gwen being the framing device for Peter's, I guess, proving himself to be a good boy.
Yeah.
I think there are characters who would have been more fitting for that. I think Jean de Wolf would have been a much better avatar for the Celestials to judge him through that lens, but
right.
I don't think Gwen is an awful one just because she reflects his arguably second greatest failure ever.
It's his greatest failure as Peter Parker.
Yeah. But I feel like if he wanted to not go back to the Gwen well again, because this is again the 10th time we've gone back to Gwen being the avatar of Peter's failure. I just think that there are other characters who could have fit that slot in the plot a bit better.
Yeah. So, like I say, we'll see how this is going to develop. Is what, next 3 issues? 3 or 4 issues?
So Hellfire Gala is, or issue 9 is a Hellfire Gala tie-in. Issue 10 is Judgment Day. And then 11 through 13 are the Hobgoblin stuff.
I am down for the Hobgoblin stuff.
I'm looking forward to that. Like I've seen some of the stuff that Romita Jr.'s been posting on his Instagram. I think we're finally gonna have Betty poop out her baby. Finally.
The thing is, what I want to say too is I like that, like, we're continuing plots from the past run and the other, like, the past 2 runs now, Spencer and Beyond, we're continuing stuff from that, and that's good. Although I miss
something I'm
looking forward to seeing Queen Goblin. I've been looking forward to follow up on it.
Like, I'll say that that is something we have not literally seen since the late 90s, since before the reboot, because there was such a hard reset with the end of the reboot with Mackey's final, with the annual 2001 annual, between Mackie and then JMS, and then there was a hard reboot between JMS and Brand New Day, a soft reboot between Big Time with Slot, and then hard reboot, all these hard reboots. This is something that for younger fans that are maybe listening here, this is something that used to happen in comics all the time.
In our day.
Back in our day. When you read comics in the 80s, and the 90s, and the 70s, this was plot points would be picked up and then taken forward. That is the one thing that I'll say that Nick Lowe has gotten right since Slott left. I felt like when Nick Lowe was editing Slott, he was letting Slott run the show, right? Here, it feels like that Nick Lowe's like, okay, you know, Spencer's building this out. The next writer can take some of these balls and run with them. I will say this, and I said this on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter at Spideydude Radio. This is the first time that Romita Jr. is drawing classic Hobgoblin since the 80s. Because the last time he drew Hobgoblin was Jason Philip McIndale as Cyber Goblin. So, And it's the last time, and the last time we had a Ramita period draw Hobgoblin was, anybody know?
I think 1990. No,
You're in the 90s.
I think it was 92.
Covers to Goblins of the Gate.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Ramita Senior drew the covers
Mm-hmm.
for that story. But that was the last time, because we remember he goes off to is it Tahiti or Belize? He goes to Belize, doesn't get seen until like the very right before Hobgoblin doesn't show back up until obviously 650, the big time arc, when he was killed off when it was Daniel, revealed later to be Daniel, and then Kingsley shows up in the arc right before Dying Wish, and he was in the Axis crossover, right?
Which was, I think, was that who wrote Axis Hobgoblin? Let me check.
And after Axis Hobgoblin, he was kind of doing.
He was in Spider Woman.
Was he?
He was in the last arc of Hopeless's Spider Woman.
Jessica Drew, the last Jessica Drew story.
Yeah, and then shit, I think he's. Where's he been since then? Let me look.
I don't think he's done anything since. He's only had a handful of appearances. Javi is in the chat. Hello, Javi, the host of Amazing Spider-Man Classics here on the.
He was in Bendis. He was in the Sinister Six of Bendis's Miles run.
Was that Kingsley?
Yeah, that was Kingsley.
God, he was playing a lackey though. That
was cringe. But he was one of the. He was also in the Ravencroft miniseries. He was one of Ravencroft's staff.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
He was with Taskmaster, Scorpion, and Moonstone as Norman's handpicked roster for Ravencroft. Speaking
of Javi, in the comments, I do want to mention that we're going to have an unboxing video.
You want to upload the branding for that?
Yeah, I don't think you did yet. So we'll have that here on the channel. Also, the latest episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics will be going out next week. Yep. So that's the Hot Toys unboxing. So he's going to talk a lot about the Hot Toys suit. So super excited for that to be on the channel. Also, it'll probably be recorded this weekend, unless my dad comes to town, which that will change things.
I wanted to touch on something that Adam, Javi mentioned it in the chat, but Adam kind of brought it into the discussion. That the continuation of plot lines, which is funny because Wells was the guy who wrote Beyond and plotted it.
Out of the room when I was making this point.
I'm sorry, but I just feel like sorry. Are we talking about the 6 month stuff?
The one thing though that I want to say about continuing plot lines is I'm afraid that they've dropped Peter going back to college, which
They have.
yeah, because it's he got blown up, and then the 6 months thing, and he blew something up, and yeah, I think that's done. And I'm sad because I liked that they went and fixed that mistake that I think Slott made by having Otto get his doctorate for him. I like that Spencer, right off the bat went into that, because that was a problem I had with the superior stuff, and post that was that he still had that, but he didn't
come forward about that. Was
well, and it was just the fact that Otto did it. He didn't do it,
and Spencer addressed it, and then it got abandoned along with a lot of the plot points in his run.
But I do like that we're still continuing stuff from the other two runs. So.
Are we gonna get Gog again? Because Randy,
I think so.
Randy mentions having him, but
yeah,
that
might be it.
Randy,
we'll see.
I know Randy got kind of written out of the book with Beetle, but
I hope he's doing it online.
Did he take Gog with him? Shit.
Sorry, I just go back and take my daughter to bed. But one of the things I liked with the whole Sin Eater thing, I think there is a continuation of of what Spencer was doing. I definitely
there
feel that
is.
Riley, yeah, I think Ben Riley was the pivot to use that as a way to like not progress Peter's story, let them plan it out for a while, and then go from there. That's what it feels like they did, and I think again, I'm glad they did because I thought it was a fun story. I still love it. That being said, it definitely feels like they're slowly. It feels like Spencer was on a track, and then they got derailed, and then now they're slowly picking up on things, especially with the Norman Osborn Senator storyline. So the fact that I like the slow build we're getting from here, and I think that I'm curious what the overarching story for Norman's going to be as far as the thematic theme for Norman. I don't think you can just do like he's inherently evil and he'll just do that forever. The way they've done it with Sin Eater, I'm going to call it now. I think Peter has to sacrifice a normal Norman for Mary Jane of some kind. Like there has to be a sacrifice.
Do you think Norman's gonna sacrifice himself to do it, or do you think Peter will toss Norman into the fire?
Something like that. There'll be something where Mephisto will be like, I will trade you a normal Norman for your marriage to come back or something like that for Peter. And Peter's gonna have because the one thing that Spencer established was the fact that because I'm waiting to see where I missed this in my time of reading Spider-Man comics, but that connection between Mephisto and Green Goblin, like the fact they're emphasizing that whole thing.
I don't like that though.
No, I agree, but I don't think he likes it either. What I think that what he was trying to do, or at least editorial, they were building up towards it, and I think that they're still doing that, is the fact that they are connected. How do you bring Mary Jane and Spider-Man back together and you eliminate that elephant in the room, which is you sacrifice now the fact that the Sin Eater, who was a part of Kindred, who's also part of that whole thing with Mephisto, is now Norman can come full circle. The sacrifice, either be him himself or Spider-Man, is sacrificed that he'll take Norman back for the Mary Jane, marriage or something like that. That's where it feels like they're headed towards. And I feel like that's where it needs to happen. And I think there is that one other thing they haven't talked about much, which is what did Mary Jane whisper to Mephisto in One More Day? I think that will come into play at some point. I think all those
they reveal that.
What was that?
That they actually showed that in Omit, and it was a whole big nothing burger.
Nah, I think I don't Omit. I don't remember what it was it then. I don't remember it at all.
Well, Omit was right after Grim Hunt, and right
I remember
the species. It was like the opening. I know it was the opening splash page of like one of the issues of Omit.
I remember. I would have been. I thought, unless I'm totally forgetting. It's been a while since I've read it, but I remember it not. I don't remember it being revealed.
Oh, it was because I distinctly remember.
Technically, wasn't actually revealed in the issue. Like you could make out what it was in the actual OMD issue. It was just scrambled.
You know what? It was because didn't she say give him everything back? Like she said something like that. Now I remember it a little bit.
Thing was the speculation.
Well, either way, I just feel it just feels like that Norman is headed on an inside track. There's going to be a sacrifice of some sort with Norman. I think that because I don't think you introduced the whole Mephisto thing and have him be this good guy and have him just be morally corrupted again. I think because they literally took the evil out of Norman. So I feel they have to put it back into him for somehow. And I feel like that's what you have to do. And it's going to be Mephisto related and then Mephisto will be done with the Spider-Man after that. Because after he puts Norman back in, the genie back in the bottle, then you can't go back to that again. Mephisto can't go back to it again. And I feel that then you can get rid of One More Day completely by doing that. So, which makes sense. So that's where I'm going with it. But either way, I think Norman will come back out of a sacrifice of something.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier. That like the fact that Norman is going Goblin mode as Pepsi Man with gold highlights. That he's never going to go back to being Green Goblin again. But I'm interested to see what they do with him in between that.
And Mr. Comics does make a good point. They've never retconned a retcon before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And that's comic books. That's the kind of the fun of it, right? How can you twist it and make it all make sense? And I feel that
quote unquote
that's
fun,
what they're going to do
yeah.
here. Yeah, listen. I think that I think Spider-Man's been pretty fun, and I watched the trailer. I didn't know the trailer dropped today. Finally, Zach, and I was giddy for Shahara to come back, man. I love that character, and I'm so stoked.
So to peek behind the curtain for everybody, the group, we have a group chat that we talk in, God, almost every day.
To plan or coordinate or just shoot the shit.
Yeah, it's just kind of specifically because one, all of us have iPhones, so it's really nice. But two, for us to again coordinate and talk and there, even though it doesn't always seem to be this way, we do try to plan the show out. So, he's in the comments. What's up, Tevia? We mentioned Omit, and he's raging over there.
just let him. He'll tire himself out.
Just to say, like I say, we're getting to we're over an hour. We're over 90 minutes now at this point. Let's kind of wrap up this episode if we can, gentlemen. We'll start with Everything Hurts.
You know what? I was pleasantly surprised by Wells's second arc. We kind of learned that 900 was a one and done made after issue 1, so we didn't really have like an actual plan. So
yeah, I don't know if that was one of those things, and we talked about this before Beyond started, how I kind of felt like that, honestly, and I think Paul makes a good point. They were trying to buy time with Beyond to get to 900. I think when Spencer left and everything, it was one of those things where they're like, oh, if we time this right, we can release this in cover date August of 2022.
So you look at that guy's 60th anniversary.
Exactly, and make that the big 60th anniversary thing. And so again, we talked about that last episode, but no, I think this being his actual
second outing.
I didn't know if Wells could do a short arc.
He can. This issue, just because this is my final thoughts, I think Wells proves he can do a 2-parter.
What's actually cool is that we have this 2-parter, then we get a 1-shot, then we get a 1-shot, and then we get a 3-parter.
It's 2 event tie-ins in a row.
But that's kind of a 1-shot. I mean, if you don't have to really read the event.
But Hellfire Gala leads directly into Judgment Day, so it's kind of hard for me to judge them separately.
Right.
That's fair.
We get a 3-parter, and then we get a 1-shot for Chasm, and then we go into Dark Web stuff. I'm a little worried that we're going into an event 14 issues in. This is the same problem. This was the same worry I had with Hunted going in. Was we were getting a big tentpole story like 13 issues in. But
that seems to be the MO. Yes, I am. I too was.
Even Slot was, but I feel like Slot's admission to that was just damage control. But
again, we can sit there and debate all day the 60th and the 50th and all that stuff. Like that, there's no reason to like go into that, honestly. But
I'll tell you something. The real 60th celebration is right here in San Diego, California, at the Comic-Con Museum. All right.
Yeah.
Great exhibit.
Adam, your final thoughts on this?
It was a solid month of issues with great art. I liked it.
Paul, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I just it's not 1000% perfect, but I think that I've been really enjoying it. It's been very condensed storytelling in a sense to where there's not a lot going on in a good way, and I think they can really focus on the Peter and Norman relationship that I'm really enjoying. The art has just been phenomenal. It's I don't know, after issue 900, it was a nice kind of like transition to like more classic Spider-Man. I don't know, I think Zeb has tapped into the fun of Spider-Man that I think that Spencer did a lot of great fun stuff too, but he was building and he was doing something different. I don't think it's worse or better. It's just doing something different. He was building towards something which we hadn't gotten since like the Hobgoblin stuff back in the day, right? And or even Venom if you want to go. But Hobgoblin was kind of
Paul, to push on to, I guess not necessarily push back. Spencer's run was mainly focused on fixing things. I don't know if you can hear me over the thing. But Spencer's run was mainly focused on fixing stuff, and then we all thought it was going to fix the thing, and then it kind of was a wet fart at the end. So Wells seems to be less focused on fixing stuff and more on telling his own story, which for better or worse feels a lot more, not necessarily more focused, but it gives it a different type of energy.
I'll partially agree with you on that. I think Spencer did his own thing and tried to make it fun. Don't get me wrong, but I think you're right. But I think he wanted to do like fixing of things yeah. So I mean, you're not wrong. I think you're on to something there. But I do think that I love Spencer's run. I think Spencer's run is fantastic up till the end.
I'm thinking of buying that omnibus.
Yeah, and so like with all that said, I think Zeb has really done a great job and shows that he is a really good like solid writer and Spider-Man is in good hands right now. They've been very coy about the future of Spider-Man, which I think is interesting, and the fact that Dan Slott they're bringing another title with everything, and it's really cool is that I didn't realize that he's still doing the Goblin costume. Right, like he's still wearing it in that trailer. It's all over.
He's wearing it for the next several months.
So there is
prediction on that. I think that the Adjective of Spider-Man title will only go about 12 issues and then
fizzle out into nothing.
And you know what? And here's the thing.
Slots even said like, I'm glad I'm not writing ASM anymore because I don't have the.
Well, he's not guiding it. He's having fun with it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I think that I'm excited about is the fact that they've been very coy with the future of Spider-Man.
Okay, really quick, Joey. This is a really bad faith characterization of Quesada. That's really, yeah.
I was just responding to it in the chat. So
that's
I have nothing to say about that. Well, I'm just going to say this. I think that with Across the Spider-Verse and it featuring Spider-Man. Would I be shocked if they were also trying to line up and build up towards, MJ and Peter? Because, obviously we end on them being back together.
You're gonna hold this. You're still holding on. You're the eternal optimist on this.
Well, I mean, the fact that, dude, I honestly, and I'm surprised no one's talked about it more, but that Spider-Man wedding album, that's a big deal. The fact they released that's not something to sneeze at. Like if you don't have no inclination of bringing something back, like what has Marvel done? Like throughout their whole, like since we've been like with the MCU and everything, like they've only built up in the comics and started preparing people mentally and like getting prepared. And it happens throughout all like everything, reselling, reprinting. I'm not saying it's for sure coming back. What I'm saying is to reprint a wedding album and sell it for like, it's a very nice collector's item. It's showing their hand is what I'm saying. And the fact that what's his name is even hold on. The fact that what's his name is even said, well, they are meant to be together and let's keep reading. Like there's going to be a give at some point. And with the writing's on the wall there. It's there. It's just a matter of when they get there. And obviously they had to pivot for whatever reason. So I just think it's going to, I don't know when it's going to happen, but they are definitely signaling something's happening. Just don't know what.
My main response to that is that I inhaled the copium for 4 years, or the hopium for 4 years, and I don't know, maybe it's just like, oh, I've been doing this for like
I gave up on it. I never once one more day happened, I was done. I was like, okay, it's not coming back. Cool. I accepted it. Maybe that's why I didn't hate it, brand new day like everyone else did afterwards. But I just accepted it. But I'll tell you what, after Into the Spider-Verse, after all the Spider-Man films are building up towards Mary Jane, and Spencer comes in, and then all of a sudden, like, they start hinting at things. I'm like, oh man, they're doing it. And the fact we keep getting things like this, and the fact that they all of a sudden have a Mary Jane with someone with kids, it's like, okay, it's gonna happen. I was fully convinced it was never gonna happen up until Spencer. Once Spencer happened and across Into the Spider-Verse and all this, it's gonna happen. I just don't know when, but it's gonna happen. I promise you.
Just have them be engaged forever. There you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Just have them be like live-in partners or something. Just give them a status quo.
As long as they're in a relationship, I am.
Same. Yeah, that was my thing before the OMD being undone tease happened in Spencer's when I was like, as long as they're together, I'm cool. And I'm basically back to that. Just if they're together, it's cool.
Yeah. Well,
I want the marriage back.
Yeah,
I want it back too, but I'm just
I like it, but part of me,
everything they say, I don't know. But we'll see.
Part of me accepts that you have to compromise with editorial on something, and I feel like that's the line you'll have to draw in the sand in terms of the relationship. Like, you can have them be perpetual live-in partners, or like perpetually engaged, but you'll probably, I know we all want the marriage back, but part of me knows that you'll probably have to draw a line in the sand on that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, let's
We'll
wrap.
see.
I want to talk about this, mainly because it was a symbiote. It was a symbiote baby. So it was an eldritch abomination. It was an eldritch abomination,
Guys, but we're gonna wrap the episode up, guys. And so with that,
all right, gamers.
I do want to mention before we leave, the tomorrow night, the new episode of Make Mine Mayday, hosted by me and Kelly. We'll be covering Amazing Spider-Girl number 9 through 12. We'll be covering, I've got the issues literally right here next to me. We're going to be covering some Carnage. Oh, not that one. Got Peter Parker getting beat up. And we got Carnage and Spider-Girl. So definitely check that out. Amazing Spider-Girl 9 through 12. Me and Kelly will be talking about it a lot tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Episode 37 of Make My Mayday. So with that, we're going to wrap the show up. I do want to mention our Patreon subscribers. Once again, Vinkman, Scott, Greg, Jurgen, Phoenician, Kale, Georgia, and Cindy, thank you guys for your contributions to the Spideydude Radio Network. We got some more stuff coming your way very, very soon over on patreon.com/Spideydude Network. Of course, follow us on our various social medias. Thanks, Neil. You can follow at Spideydude Radio on Twitter, Spideydude Network on Facebook and Instagram. You got at Spideydude Radio Network on YouTube. If you've not liked and subscribed on YouTube, please, we're trying to get more subscribers. If you haven't already done so, share this show. Give us a like, give us a share, give us the subscribe. You don't have to hit the notification bell if you don't want to, but you can always do that as well. We have a voicemail line, 818-925-6631. That is the voicemail line for the entire Spideydude Radio Network. So if you want to leave a voicemail for all of our shows, whether it be Voices from the Eerie, Make Mine Mayday, Spideydude Experience, Amazing Spider-Man Classics, Books of X, leave a voicemail and we'll play it on the show. the respective shows. Be sure to keep it under 3 minutes and let us know what show you're calling about. Of course, we also got all of our shows I just mentioned. Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast. It's going to have a brand new episode coming this Friday as of this recording. It's already going to be out by the time you get the audio editions. Speaking of audio editions, there will be coming your way very soon. We're going to get caught up on the audio editions and so much more. So guys, cannot wait. And the next time we are on the show, we're going on this show, Spideydude Experience. We're going to be celebrating our 2nd year online. That's right. 2nd year online. I cannot wait for it. And until then, I will see you guys next time here on the Spideydude Radio Network.